Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video. My name is Dr. Ray. I am a small animal general practitioner. I've got some additional certifications and coursework and training that you can check out in the description box below. But basically, I welcome everyone. Happy Purse Day to everyone here in my little nutrition nation, my little soldiers in our fight to take the stress away, take the negative stigma, just all the negativity. Let's just take that out of pet food, because pet food is an extension of our pets, and our pets are here for our personal enjoyment, and we love them. They're part of the family, and I don't want you guys to be worrying about things that you don't necessarily need to worry about. I think that pet food is now one of the big things out there. There are a lot of people capitalizing on it. Certainly there are pet food companies that are capitalizing on certain marketing tricks and pulling at the heartstrings of family pets. And so I don't want that for you. I want it to be simple for you. Like for me, it's pretty simple. And in order to do that, I think that it's important that we try to remove some of the marketing things that are meant to obviously stimulate certain thoughts and certain emotions, and then project those onto pet food. What I want is to focus on the nutrition, because at the end of the day, the bottom line, what is important about pet food is the nutrition that it delivers to our pets. And is that nutrition appropriate, or is it not? And really it is that simple. And so I'm gonna help you do that today. I have come up with a lovely, beautiful, ginormous chart for the brand Nutrisource. So I've been asked by multiple people about Nutrisource, and so I thought that the best way to cover everything and answer all the questions would be to take the entire line and put them in a very nice chart that hits some of the high points. Certainly there are things that may be important to you in addition to this, but this is just like the very baseline. I'm not saying these things are the only things you should look at. I'm not saying that everything else is, inconsequential. What I'm saying is, at the beginning, as you're learning how to do this, as you're trying to sift through and be less confused, keep it simple. And so that's what we're going to do today. We are going to keep it simple. We're going to use a pet food scoring system that I developed for you guys to keep it simple and to remove ourselves from bias, emotional blackmail, whatever you want to call it, pulling at the heartstrings. We are going to avoid those things, and we're going to focus just on facts, things that we can find on the package that are factual, and things that are backed up in the literature. We're going to be using numbers from Small Animal Clinical Nutrition. Why are we using those numbers? Because those are pretty much the only numbers that are published. When I set forth with this channel, and I like to do things black and white, I like to have information backed up. I looked everywhere. I emailed several companies. Where do you get these numbers? Where are your numbers coming from? And I heard a lot of crickets. I didn't hear a lot of factual information or references that I could point you guys to until one of the companies, and I honestly don't remember who it was. I think it might have been Royal Canin, said, this is a good reference. Maybe you want to check out this reference. And so that's where Small Animal Clinical Nutrition's number come from. I do want to point out, because I do get a lot of questions, what are the difference between small animal nutrition numbers and AAFCO? AAFCO is the government agency that oversees and regulates pet food, basically labeling claims. They are not so much interested in pet nutrition, but they are interested in making sure that the consumer is protected. And so their numbers are very large and very not vague, because they're listed, but usually there's minimums listed. They care about minimums. They don't want the consumer to be shortchanged. They don't have a lot of maximums listed, and the range is very large. And they're not concerned about what's making your pet optimal. They're concerned about what needs to be in the pet food to ensure that your pet isn't basically just going to spiral out of control, and be crazy deficient. And so we don't want that, because all pet foods here in the United States, in order to be sold commercially as a pet food and not a supplement, have to pass AAFCO standards. And so, why do we want to focus on those? We already know in order to be sold that has to be the case. So what I want to do is come up with some optimal nutrition numbers that maybe, if we get close to those optimal numbers, or hopefully in that range, we can hit that optimal performance that we really want. And so that's why we use Small Animal Clinical Nutrition, and we do not use AAFCO on this channel. And so with that said, we're gonna jump into Nutrisource. You can follow along if you would like. The website is nutrisourcepetfoods.com. And if you head there now, we will take a quick little peruse about the company, and then we'll jump into the individual food lines. So their motto is for full circle feeding for all around health. This product is part of the full circle feeding system. Now, what is the full circle feeding system? I'm really not sure. That again is going down into the marketing and what makes you guys confused and why things get confusing. There is no taught. You will not find that in small animal clinical nutrition. You will not find that verbiage anywhere. That is something that Nutrisource has come up with, and certainly if you want to learn about it and you want to build a meal plan and do all that, you can do it, but totally not necessary to evaluate the nutrients of this food. They've got multiple, our foods, they've got multiple lines. They've got Nutrisource, which is what we're going to do today. They've got a little bit more of their elevated line, which is Pure Vita. They've got Choice, they've got Element Series, they've got Toppers, which I'm not a big fan of Toppers. Because they really, those are treats. Again, Toppers are probably not AAFCO certified because they are meant for supplemental feeding, and so you never really know what's in a topper or how a topper is going to interact with a diet. So I'm not a big fan of Toppers. Freeze-dried, which I'm not a very big fan of because there is some safety issues there, and I do need to do a dedicated video on freeze-dried. I know I've been literally saying that for a year, but I'm having so much trouble with my freeze-dry machine, which I want to have running to share with you guys. But freeze-dried has some safety issues, so I'm not a big fan of freeze-dried. And then treats are treats. Those shouldn't be more than 10% of your pet's daily caloric intake because they're just treats. They're just supposed to be for fun and be periodic. They should not be a substantial part of your pet's diet. Before we go any further, I do want to just jump into the Toppers really quick just to see, to show you guys on the package. We're just going to pick one. Here is the beef bone broth recipe. So as you will see as we go through the food, we are going to find the AAFCO statement, which is the certification statement on nutritional adequacy on the package. That will be on all foods that are complete and balanced. But when you find something that is a topper, you will see that it does not have that statement anywhere. But that's why. So if you can't find that AAFCO statement on the package, that very well may be that particular food is not meant to be the majority of your pet's diet. It is not complete and balanced. And when you add something that is not complete and balanced to a food that is already complete and balanced, what does that do? So you have a scale, right? And the scale is completely balanced. And then you add something on this side, what happens? You unbalance the scale. And so we really don't want to do that. And that's why I don't do toppers. There may be specific medical conditions where maybe a pet has cancer or something like that. We're trying to get them to eat. We need to do some sort of a topper to get that nutrition in them. That's different. I'm talking about on this channel feeding the normal, healthy pet. So the information that I'm giving is just a general guideline. I'm a general practitioner. I practice every day, not every day, but 5 or 6 days a week. I have my own practice. I see my own patients, I examine them, and I make medical recommendations. Those medical recommendations are completely different than the general information that I give on this channel. Why? Because I personally know and am acquainted with those patients, the people, their budget, their concerns, the availability in our area, the individual needs of the pet. And so then I can make more tailored recommendations. And so for this channel, I'm talking about general guidelines for the general pet that's well, things that you guys can look at. And then if you have additional questions, absolutely follow up with your personal veterinarian. I do not think that it's appropriate for celebrities, so to speak, on the internet to be giving nutritional advice specific to pets' personal needs that they're not personally acquainted with. I just don't think that that's appropriate. Those questions should be, or those diets and those recipes should be formulated with your pet specifically in mind, because every pet is different. A Chihuahua is different than a Great Dane. A Chihuahua, could be a big Chihuahua, could be a little Chihuahua, could be an applehead, could be a deer head. There's a lot of different things that go into pets as a species versus people. People is very easy. Medications and things in people, usually an adult dose and a pediatric dose. That's not the case in animals. I calculate every day, every single patient, every medication individually to that patient. It's not one size fits all. And so, simply going on the internet and finding a recipe for a home cooked diet or a raw diet or add this topper, add that, add avocado, add this, add that, that it's fun, and I agree that it's fun, and a lot of people like to do that, but is it nutritionally sound? If we're being completely honest with ourselves, no, it's probably not. And so for those of you that like to do those type of things and those bring you enjoyment and that brings you closer to your pet, I highly suggest that you get in contact with a board certified veterinary nutritionist so they can sit down and have a personal consultation with you and do that, make those diets specifically for your pet. So I'm not anti anything. I don't promote raw for the general population. I don't promote home cooked diets for the general population. But I do promote, if that's something that you enjoy, I promote doing it correctly. And in my opinion, the only way to do that correctly, really do it correctly, is to have a consultation with a board certified veterinary nutritionist that will help you do that correctly. And it is not easy, and God bless people that do it. I've seen some of these nutritional consultations come across my particular patients that I refer off to have that done. And some of them are pretty crazy and pretty wild, and they're not for the faint of heart. So that was a little bit of a tangent on toppers and supplemental feedings and keeping things nutritionally balanced. And I think that is also why things can get a little bit confusing, because really there's no shame in having a board certified veterinary nutritionist help you out. That's what they're there for. They love that. They would love for you to contact them. And in the description box, I do have a link to the American College of Veterinary Nutritionists, where you can scroll and find one in your area that may be able to help you, and certainly your veterinarian can put you in contact with one as well. So let's move on. That was a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's important information that all of my little nutrition nuts need to know, because it's important. So full circle feeding, again, you can go into that. You can take this quiz, but all of this is just marketing. Happier dog, a healthier gut, optimized nutrition, how to go full circle, pick your kibble, make mealtime more exciting. So then you're going to add, this here, and then who's been a good dog, you're going to add a pouch, and so you're going to rotate your protein and carbs. So this is all marketing to get you to buy more of their products. None of this stuff is necessary. It's mostly superfluous, and quite honestly, some of it is probably deleterious in my opinion, because rotating your proteins, I've gone over that, is not necessary. All the main proteins carry all the amino acids. That is totally a marketing thing. You do not need to rotate foods to get a more complete amino acid profile. Beef, chicken, turkey, all those already have all the amino acids. And when you rotate a food, there is a very good chance that you are not only priming the system to recognize that food as a food allergy, you are also making it very difficult on your veterinarian, if your pet is truly diagnosed with a food allergy, to find a novel protein to treat it. You're going to be limited then at that point to hydrolyzed diets, which can be very expensive and can be difficult to get in some situations. And so again, all this stuff is just extra stuff and is adding to the confusion. So just bypass that and keep it simple. So anyway, that is, that's Nutrisource in a 15-minute nutshell. What we're going to do now is the food line that I evaluated was quite diverse. So they have a million different beautiful colored recipes here, as you can see. And so as we go through them, I'm going to point out some of the little marketing gimmicks that add to the confusion. And so as you can see, we've got small and medium breed puppy, large breed puppy, adult small bites, adult chicken recipe, large breed adult chicken recipe, beef, large breed beef. And so as you can see this kind of pattern. For every adult food, they now have a large breed adult food. They only really have this one puppy line right here, which is a small and medium breed puppy, which I do agree with, and large breed puppy. So let's clarify this really quick before we go into the chart, now that I've shown you the different options. There are only, I believe, 5 life stages, 5 definable life stages. Life stages that legally can be put on the package as the food is meant to feed that life stage. And what are they? They are pregnant, lactating. They are growth, so puppy. They are large breed puppy, so that's a puppy that is going to be greater than 50 to 70 pounds when they're mature. There is adult maintenance. So that's anything that is adult, anything that is over 12 months, and all life stages. All life stages means they've lumped everything together. They are making it nutritionally sound, not nutritionally appropriate, but nutritionally sound, according to AAFCO, to feed a pregnant dog or cat and an old geriatric dog. Now, is that ideal? No. Is it legal? Yes. And so that is why we do not like all life stages on this channel. We want to tailor it. So as you can see, there is no life stage for the adult large breed. An adult large breed does not require its own life stage because it is no longer growing. The reason why large breed puppies have their own life stage is because their growth rate is much different than a small breed puppy. We know that. There is research, there is data. You can check out more information on that in the Small Animal Nutrition textbook that is linked down below for free for you. Beautiful chapter. There's 2 chapters. There's one on the large breed puppy and growth, and then there's a chapter on metabolic bone diseases that can happen if you do not feed your puppy appropriately. That's why the puppy has its own life stage. It's related to growth. When they're an adult, there is no growth. After 9 months old, growth plates are closed. We are no longer worried about the growth. Therefore, there is no specific life stage or nutritional requirement for a large breed dog. Okay, so if you have a large breed dog, and I get this question a lot, you're just looking for either a food that falls in the senior parameters or the regular adult. And so I will go over, I think in my chart, I do one of the large breed adults, but I don't do all of them because there's so many and they're superfluous, and it is all a marketing thing. And again, it's just going to confuse you. So do not necessarily worry about that. If you want to evaluate one of those foods because you like it, evaluate it against either the adult or if you have a senior, against the senior. All right, so we're gonna pull up the chart here, and I'm gonna be looking at this chart as we go along, so please pardon my looking down, but I am gonna explain it to you really quick. And so in the first column under the Nutrisource logo, you've got the parameter that we're gonna evaluate it. So I've got the main ingredient, or the ingredient that is listed as the main ingredient on the package. We are going to go over that really quick, what that means. So we're going to break the marketing down on how food packages are named. But we've got the main ingredient. We have the kcal per cup because we're going to need that to calculate the resting energy requirement. We've got the all life stage as listed on the AAFCO statement. So the legal all life stage, not the life stage that again is in the name of the food. Was the food feeding child? Is the diet grain-free? Is the diet raw? What's the protein percent on a dry matter basis? Fat, fiber, calcium, phosphorus, and then the overall score. I am putting the price per 25-pound bag on here, and then I am going to give a little bonus point if this food was formulated, or if the food, if the company has a board-certified veterinary nutritionist on staff to help with questions and formulation changes. And so I'll just go ahead and tell you, yes, Nutrisource does, so they are going to get the +1 bonus point on that across the board. Okay, so let's look up really quick. As you can see, the first one is going to be the small and medium breed puppy. We are going to evaluate this off of the standards in small animal clinical nutrition for the puppy, small and medium, so it's just going to be the regular puppy, not the large breed. When you see the package, and let's see, we can very lovely zoom this in, you can see underneath the small and medium breed puppy designation, it says chicken meal and rice recipe. What does that mean? The word recipe means the chicken meal and rice is only 25% of the diet. So 75% of the diet is something else. And so if a lot of times you go to the ingredient list, you can see the first ingredient is chicken meal, so we know that that is 25%, and then we've got chicken. Chicken is mostly water and is very heavy, and so that's why it goes up to the front of the ingredient list. Brown rice, chicken fat, and then here you have this right here, Manhattan fish meal. And so in reality, 25% of this diet is chicken meal. A large portion, and we can try to call and glean this information, but there is going to be a large portion of this diet that's actually fish meal. And so just because this says it is a chicken meal and rice recipe, it is important to realize that only means it's 25%. There are other things in here, and so there is probably a very large portion of this diet that is fish. And so they don't call it chicken, meal, rice, and fish recipe because that's not the marketing they were going to. But now you guys know, if you see that word recipe, you need to flip it over, look at the ingredient list, and see what other protein sources are in there, because there is probably 75% something else, because a lot of those other other things on the ingredient list, like the minerals and the salt and things like that, it's very very minuscule and very minute. So that was a little trick there for you. So let's go back to the chart now that we've clarified what the main ingredient is. And these are all recipes, so they all, I believe, fall in that 25% rule. So the first one here is the puppy. It's chicken. It's 535 kcal per cup. I went ahead and checked that for you. Yes, that is the correct feeding. The feeding guide is correct. So they are suggesting that we feed the appropriate, the appropriate amount. Next is the life stage. When you read the AAFCO statement on this one, so again, let's go back to the nutrition. The AAFCO statement, and you can look at all these are all, it's very all nicely laid out there for you, so you can go each individual one. I'm not going to do that for time's sake, but I'll show you on this one. Nutrisource small and medium breed puppy food is formulated to meet the nutritional levels established by AAFCO dog food nutrient profiles for all life stages except for the growth of large breed puppies. And that's good. That's what we wanted. And so right here you can see on this chart I put all minus large breed puppy. That's what I mean when I'm saying that. It's all life stages, which is essentially a puppy food, but they are being very specific to tell us that no, this is not formulated for a large breed puppy. So there we have that. It did not undergo feeding trials. It says that there on the AAFCO statement. It's formulated. So we're going to lose a point there. It is not grain-free and is not raw. We talked about that earlier. If you're interested in those diets, it is not for the beginner. It is something that you really want to get help with formulating. So not recommending that for the general population that just wants, something easy. And so they're going to get a point for not being grain-free or raw on both of those. And then here we go with the parameters. And so I'm going to pull up my video tools chart for puppy, and we're going to use that to evaluate this food. For the puppy, ideally we want our protein between 22 and 35, so yes, we're at 33.3%. We're going to get a point there. Fat at 22 is also correct, between 10 and 25. Fiber at 3 needs to be less than 5. Ideally in the puppy, it's kind of a give me. There's not really a whole lot of emphasis on fiber, so you're going to get a point there. Calcium at 2.1% is quite in excess. We do not want our calcium above 1.7, so we're going to lose a point on the minerals. And then phosphorus at 1.4. Again, tiny bit in excess. At 1.4, it should be no greater than 1.3, so we're not going to get a point there. And so if you go down the list and you do the calculation, this is going to bring this up to a 6 out of 10, but we do have a nutritionist on staff, so if you want to utilize that bonus point, you can add that in, which makes it a 6 or a 7. So that bonus point is there for you guys if maybe you want to substitute one of the other parameters that's not important to you. Maybe you're like, well, I can calculate my own feeding guide. I don't care if they tell me the right amount to feed. Maybe you want to substitute that, and that is fine. You can certainly make up your own chart. I just want to give you guys a way to subjectively evaluate these things, and then repeatably and reproducibly do this so that all foods are evaluated without bias. So there you got it. That's how we're going to do it. That's how we're going to play this game. And we're going to go along now to the other diet. So the next one is the large breed puppy. So we need to specifically bring up our large breed puppy chart. So again, that is a definable life stage, large breed puppy, puppies that are going to be greater than 50 to 70 pounds in their adulthood. And so this is again a chicken recipe. I did calculate the calories. It's coming in at 400 kcal per cup. That was not a correct. It's the only one that the feeding guide was not correct, so they did get an X there. It is an all life stage food, but it's specifically designated for large breed puppy. No on the feeding trial, no grain-free, no raw, and then we get down into the parameters. And so this one's coming in at 26.19 for a large breed puppy. Our parameters for protein are 20 32, so that is correct. Fat at 14.61 is a little bit in excess, and you will notice that this fat level is a little bit more restrictive than the regular puppy, and that's because we don't want our large breed puppies growing too fast. If they grow too fast, the bones will grow to be brittle, and they will develop some of those metabolic bone diseases that I talk about, or that is talked about in Small Animal Clinical Nutrition in that chapter on metabolic bone disease. And so they are going to lose a point there. Fiber, we talked about, is a gimme. They're going to get a point, and then we get down into the minerals, which is very important, again, for metabolic bone disease in the large breed puppy. This is coming in at 1.67 on the calcium, which is still going to be in excess of what we want ideally, and 1.3 on the phosphorus, again, is in excess. So this actually only adds up to a 5 out of 10. Because it wasn't quite nutritionally perfect for a large breed puppy. I think it's of anything, a large breed puppy is really important to hit the appropriate life stage because you're setting your pet up for the future. And so I would have liked the large breed puppy to be a little bit more, pay a little bit more attention specifically to the fat and the minerals to avoid some growth issues, that may result in permanent life-changing alterations in the future. All right, so now we're out of the puppy realm and we're going into the adult recipe. So the first one is the adult chicken. Again, chicken is the main ingredient. We do need to pull up our parameters here for the adult dog. Again, there is no large breed adult. There is just an adult life stage. There's actually not a senior life stage either, but there is definable ideal parameters for the senior. So we will use those when we get to the senior food. So we've got chicken. It's coming at 429 kcals per cup, which is going to be appropriate. The food is an all life stage food that is appropriate for large breed puppies. So again, they are literally lumping every single life stage that you can. They're not paying attention to the specific needs of each specific life stage. Across the board, the feeding trial is a no, and so we're just going to gloss over that. But just know none of these foods are grain free, none of these foods are raw, and none of them are feeding trialed. So that's across the board there. Protein for the adult, we ideally want between 15 and 30. It's coming in at 26.5, which is appropriate. Fat at 17 is appropriate. Should be between 10 and 20. So that's happy situation for us. Fiber at 3 just needs to be less than 5, so that's appropriate. And then we get into the minerals, which in most cases is where companies tend to skimp a little bit on quality control. Calcium at 1.5 is going to be in excess, and phosphorus at 1.1 is also in excess. So this is going to bring it up to a 6 out of 10. Price wise, you're looking at $65.21 a bag on this one. And then the next food, like I said, I'm only doing one of these, is a large breed adult. There is no specific chart for large breed adult. Just saying that multiple times. I get a lot of questions and comments on that. Large breed adult dogs should follow either the senior if they're a senior, and yes, large breeds become a senior early, so you might want to talk to your veterinarian about making that change at 5 years versus 7 years. But it's either adult or senior on the large breed adult dog, so a large breed dog that's over 12 months of age. So again, chicken, 441 kcals per cup, that's going to be good. It's again listed as an all life stage large breed puppy. That is no bueno. Should be tailored to, again, either an adult. Well, really that's the only option. I would have liked this to have said adult there. No on the feeding trial, grain free and raw. And let's get into the nutrient analysis. So 23.4 on the protein is going to be appropriate. We want it between 15 and 30. Fat at 15 is going to be appropriate. We need it between 10 and 20. Fiber at 3.5 is less than 5. That's appropriate. Calcium at 1.5 is going to be in excess. Phosphorus at 1.2 is going to be in excess. So that is going to bring this to a 6 out of 10. Next, we get into the beef. Noting in the beef is going to be a little bit lower on calorie, and so it's 393 kcals per cup. So if you're looking for a little bit of a low calorie food, this one is not the lowest, but one of the lower ones in the line. It is an all life stage, but they are excluding a large breed puppy. No on the feeding trial, no on grain free, no on raw. And let's get into the nutrient paralysis. The nutrient paralysis. The nutrient analysis. Protein 22.8 is nicely situated in the lower end of the reference range. We want it between 15 and 30. Fat at 14.3 is also going to be appropriate. Fiber at 4.4, a little bit higher fiber. So if you have a pet maybe that has some issues with anal glands or constipation, this might be a good option because the fiber is a little bit higher in this one if you like the Nutrisource line at 4.4. And then the minerals here are one of the higher ones that we've seen as far as the adult foods. So the calcium is going to be in excess at 2 and the phosphorus at 1.4. So again, only getting a 6 out of 10 here, and it's going to cost you $66.54. Next one is going to be the Trout. I did get asked specifically about the Trout by one of my subscribers, so this was for you. Trout is rice recipe, so 25% is coming from that trout and rice. It's 414 kcal per cup. It is listed as an all life stage large breed puppy food. No in the feeding trial, no grain free, no raw. Protein's coming in at 24.2, which is going to be appropriate if you're feeding this to an adult. 16.6 on the fat is going to be appropriate, and then the minerals, 2.6 on the fiber, which is appropriate, and then the minerals, again, we're falling a little bit short at 1.5 on the calcium, which is excess, on 1.3 on the phosphorus. So this could bring that up to 6 out of 10. So this seems to be that this Nutrisource is falling in that 6 to 10, 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10 range. We'll see at the end, we'll go over at the end why that might be the case, but it's going to cost you, the Trout one, $66.54, if that's one that interests you, keeping in mind, again, not a food trial appropriate diet, 25% is Trout, 75% is something else. Now we're getting into the lamb, and this is lamb meal and rice recipe, 405 on the kcal per cup, and it is all life stages except for large breed puppy. No on the next three, so no feeding trial, no grain free, no raw. Protein at 25.2, that's going to be a yes. Fat at 14, that's a yes. Fiber is actually going to be a no on this one. They've got a little bit extra fiber in this. I'm not sure why that may be. 6.1%. Actually, they're going to lose a point there for that. And then again, excessive in the minerals, excessive calcium and phosphorus, and is going to bring this up to a 5 out of 10. So a lower scoring one on this for us. All right, now we're getting into the weight management. And so these are diets that are usually lower in calorie, higher in fiber to help promote satiation. And so that's how, there are different diets that work differently, but most lines that have a weight management diet, that's kind of the philosophy that they're going to utilize. Yes, that may be appropriate for some pets. It may work for some pets, but there are also some pets that does not work, and we have to utilize other weight management technologies, so to speak. So keep that in mind, that if it's just not working and you're having to restrict calories, the more calories you restrict, you may actually be causing deficiencies in other aspects as well. So let's move into this. All right, so their weight management diet is going to be a chicken flavor base, 328 kcal per cup. It is labeled as an adult because you can see, and that makes sense, you do not want to feed an all life stage food and promote weight loss. So they are paying attention to that, which I like. So it is specifically labeled as an adult. No on the feeding trial, no grain free, no raw. And protein is actually going to be good on this one, 27. When we want it between 15 and 30. The fat, we're having low fat, which again goes with the, what we're looking for. So fat is 11, one of the lower fats in, I think it is actually the lowest fat in the Nutrisource line. We want it between 10 and 20. So yes, they are doing that. I'm happy about that. Fiber, 16.3%. That is a lot, and your dog may do good with that amount of fiber, they may not, and so keep that in mind. That is quite a bit of fiber that you're paying for with this weight management and food. And when we get down to cost, you will see this is actually a little bit more expensive. So you're paying for extra fiber, which you could probably just supplement by adding benefiber if you wanted to do that. But anyway, calcium and phosphorus I'm not happy with. The calcium at 2.3 is one of the highest ones. We'll have to look and see where on the spectrum this is, but 2.3 is quite high for calcium, inappropriately high, and 1.3 on the phosphorus. So that brings us at a 6 out of 10. It is one of the more expensive ones, 67.87. So you're paying a couple extra dollars for some fiber there, if that's what you're interested. All right, so next is the performance recipe. There is no definition for performance. You could call anything performance. They could probably call kibbles and bits performance if they wanted to. It's not definable. And so when you see that word performance, yes, it's easy to assume that it's going to be something super stellar for your dog that is dock diving or something like that, but that may not necessarily be the case. So you need to bypass that word performance and go to the nutrients, which is what we're going to do now. So it is an all life stage food, which, you know, again, it's not appropriate, but for dogs that are performance that need a little bit of extra fat, that may be something that you're looking for there, excluding large breed puppy on this one. No on the feeding trials, no grain-free, no raw. Protein is a little bit in excess at 30.3%. People that, or the common thought process is my dog is doing performance, and so therefore they need more protein because, you know, they need to build up muscle. Not necessarily the case. I've got a video that I guess I can try to link up here or something that talks about the specific nutritional needs for performance and what level of performance and what, you know, parameters you need to shoot for. Generally, the higher performance that you get and the more energy expenditure that you're asking your pet to use, we're going to increase the fat, not necessarily the protein. So keep that in mind. But they are going to be excessive here at 30.3, most likely because they are trying to, again, you know, hit that high note for people that want to see that high protein. It's not excessively high, you know, it's only a 10th high. So, you know, it is what it is. But just to let you know that's the case. If fat at 20.5, it's a little bit high. Again, I'm actually not mad at that. You know, if we're trying to supplement more fat for some of these performance guys. 3.4 on the fiber, so, you know, a nice regular fiber range, not like its next door friend, the weight management. You know, this is a regular fiber amount here, and so that, you know, that's fine. Begin to get the point there. And then the minerals, again, excessive, 2.1 on the calcium, 1.5 on the phosphorus. Generally, the higher protein you get, the more you're going to have issues with the calcium and phosphorus if the company's not utilizing high quality protein sources that can be easily processed away from the minerals, and we'll go over that in a minute. So actually the performance food is only going to get a 3 out of 10, so one of the lowest scoring foods and one of the more expensive ones as well, 83.84. There are probably better diets to feed your performance breed, you know, if that's what you're looking for. And there is no life stage for performance, so a lot of the performance diets are going to fall out of the parameters. So if you're feeding it to a performance dog, that's going to be a separate consideration. If you're feeding this performance diet to your regular dog that's just going on regular walks and things like that, and this food is going to be wholly out of the recommended nutritional ranges. Next, we're going on to the super performance. Again, there is no definition for performance. Like, what's performance? What's super performance? If you find yourself on the internet and you're like, I got it down to the performance and the super performance, and you don't know where to go from there, neither do I, because those words don't mean anything. So again, don't even worry about the name of the food. Let's just look at the nutrients. So the super performance could be higher calorie. Now that would have been maybe more, you know, appropriate to put on the bag. That would have been more descriptive rather than super performance. They could put high calorie because that is true. It's 531, so it's the highest caloric density of their diets. They are still recommending that you feed the appropriate amount, even if you're feeding your couch potato. It is an all life stage food, with the exception of large breed puppy. No on the feeding trial. The grain-free or raw, 32.5. So again, a little bit higher on the protein level. 22.25, a little higher on the fat level. Not a lot, just a little bit, but it is higher. Lower on the fiber, 2.5. And then the minerals, because we've brought up that protein level and they have not paid specific attention on making sure they're managing the ash level, the mineral level, those minerals are higher on this one as well. So 2.03 on the calcium and 1.45 on the phosphorus. So again, higher calcium and phosphorus, just like the regular regular Performace was. Actually, it's a little bit, tiny bit less. So they did pay a little bit of attention, but still excessive. So that's only going to be a 3 out of 10 as well for the $83.84 price tag. All right, now we get into the senior. Now, the word senior on a package, again, is just the name of the food. You could pick any one of these foods and put the word senior as the name of the dog food. It only makes sense if the nutrition is appropriate in the numbers for the senior, because they can name anything they want senior. And so let's see. Let's pull up and let's see here. So when we're looking at the differences just in the small animal clinical nutrition numbers, you can see here that our senior dogs need lower protein, lower calcium, lower phosphorus. In general, and this is not listed on my PSS system, but they need lower sodium, lower fat, higher fiber, and so that type of thing. It's not crazy different, but it is different. And so if we're wanting to be optimal, we need to pay attention to these subtle differences. And so it is a chicken flavor formula, lower calories, which is usually good for a senior dog, 398. It is an adult, and I put a little asterisk there because of all the things we talked about. There is no senior life stage that they're going to list on that, so you're not going to find that in the AFCO statement. So don't look for that. You just need to know, as part of my Nutrition Nation, that you're going to look for an adult food, but then compare it to the senior parameters. Okay, so let's get into that. So they're going to get a point for the correct life stage. They're going to get a point for recommending the correct calorie, on the resting energy requirement. No on the feeding trial, so they can lose a point there, but it is not grain-free or raw, which is good for your senior dog. 26.2 is going to be okay if you're feeding this senior food to an adult, but is going to be slightly excess if you're feeding it to a senior. We want that protein level to be a little bit low in our seniors to preserve kidney function. 13 on the fat is going to be okay for the senior dog, and it's going to be okay for the adult. 3.44 on the fiber is going to be okay for both the adult and the senior. And then now we get into the minerals. It is going to be excessive for both the adult and the senior in the mineral department, and especially for your senior, those minerals are really important. So if we are feeding this senior recipe to an adult dog, I think it's a good option. It's going to be a 7 out of 10. If you're feeding this food to a senior dog, as the name is suggesting, this is only a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 10. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now we're moving on to the cat. I did throw a couple cat ones in here for you cat people, my cat friends, on Purse Day. So let's pull up some of our cat parameters. I think they really only had a couple different options. They lumped cat and kitten together, which is, again, totally not fair. Cats are not kittens. Kittens need different things than adult cats do, so let's not shortchange them. But Nutrisource, didn't do that. It is an all life stage food, which means it is essentially a kitten food. We're going to evaluate it here against both the parameters. So the feeding guide was correct at 497. They're going to lose a point for the all life stages, not feeding trial, not grain-free, not raw. 33.8 on the protein is going to be appropriate for both the cat and the kitten. 19.7 on the fat is going to be appropriate for the kitten and is going to be appropriate for the cat, so they're going to get a point there. 2.9 on the fiber, it's got to be less than 5, so they're going to get a point for both life stages there, and then we get into the minerals. 1.6 is just barely eking in on the kitten, and is going to be too much for the adult cat, and 1.3 on the phosphorus is going to be too much for the adult cat, but just eking in on the kitten. So if you're feeding this to an adult cat, this is only going to get you 6 out of 10 if you're feeding this cat and kitten food to your adult cat. If you're feeding it to a kitten, it's actually going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, So this is actually a pretty darn good option for a kitten. So yay! So it's actually high score on the kitten food, and it's going to cost you $46.06 for a 25-pound bag. Then we've got the last one, which is the senior and weight management. They're lumping those in together. So I'm going to evaluate it against the adult, and then I'm going to evaluate it against the senior. So senior cats have pretty specific requirements to maintain healthy kidneys. That's one of the major issues with adult and aging cats is, at least from a veterinary medical standpoint, we lose a lot of them to kidney disease just as a species. And so whatever we can do to prolong the health of the kidneys is ultimately probably going to prolong your cat's life. And so it is a chicken flavored formula, 307 kcal per cup, so again, lower calories because older cats and cats that are overweight need that low cal. It is an adult food, so they're going to get a point there. No feeding trial, no grain-free, no raw, and then let's get into the nutrient analysis. So 30 is going to be, 30.15 is going to be appropriate both for the regular cat and the senior cat. 9 on the fat is pretty low. Even low for the senior. So this is one of the first ones where we actually lose it a little bit on the fat. I'm not mad about the low fat, to be quite honest, because cats do tend to be obese, and if you do treats or anything like that, cats being usually around 10-11 pounds, those treats really do add up, and those treats are mostly fat. So I'm not mad about the fat being low, but it is low, so I can't give them a point there. Fiber at 14%. We get another one of these like mega fibers here. I'm not mad about high fiber on a cat either, to be quite honest. Cats a lot of times will battle constipation, so I'm not mad about the fiber either. But I mean, 14 is quite high, and not all cats probably can handle that, so they're going to lose a point there. And then the minerals, which is actually important, 1.97 on the calcium is going to be extremely excess, and 1.4 on the phosphorus is going to be extremely excess. So if you're feeding this to a senior cat, to me this is a no, because the minerals are the most important to me, and it's off severely. So for a senior, their senior diet is only getting a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's still getting a 5, so it's only a 5 out of 10. So that was nearly the entire Nutrisource line. Not all of them, because there were just so darn many, but a good portion of the Nutrisource line. So let's just look at everything in totality. The go home message, or the number one big winner of this one, I think, is the cat and kitten food. Not to be fed to a cat, but to be fed to a kitten. The Nutrisource cat and kitten chicken recipe, the blue bag, is an 8 out of 10, so it's a good option, and not too bad. $46.06 for a 25-pound bag, and they do have a board of nutritionists, so that's great. Across the board, this company lost a majority of their points on the minerals, and that's important because it is important because of the health issues, implications that happen with oversupplementation of minerals, but it also is telling us to their attention to detail and their attention to picking a protein source that is a good quality, clean protein source. Because if you purchase low quality, and this is from a manufacturing standpoint, if you purchase a low quality protein, there's going to be a lot of things in there that are unsavory, and it's going to take a lot of time and money to remove the little bits of bone and feathers and fur and all that is contributing to the excessive mineral content. So you could buy a low quality protein and then pump a bunch of money in to properly process it, but a company's not going to do that. And so when you see a company that has high calcium and phosphorus, it is an indication that either A, they're buying a low quality protein source that they don't care to process. Well, there's no B. That's what it is. They're buying a lower quality protein source, and then they're on top of that not taking the time to process it, to pull that out. And why aren't they doing that? Because calcium and phosphorus are not a glamour nutrient. They're not as fancy, and they're not as loved as the protein and some of these other things like the ingredients and stuff like that. If we can bring awareness to that, maybe we can make that a thing, but right now it's really not a thing. all in all, this food scores somewhere, you know, each one, you can look at it in totality, scores somewhere for a 5 and a 6. The performance, if you're not feeding an actual performance animal, again, you need to definitionally be feeding a performance animal. There are different levels of performance and different requirements. This food's not appropriate for just your everyday dog. Do not feed your everyday dog the performance or super performance. It just doesn't make sense. And then yeah, I mean, that's basically the take-home message. Off on the minerals, the performance and super performance kind of were underperformance as far as the nutrients go. And the kitten was a winner. I will say honorable mention to the senior dog food if fed to an adult, again 7 out of 10. So that's also, I think, a take home one as well. So senior recipe chicken fed to an adult was another good option. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something along the way. This was Nutrisource. I do these videos on request, so not sponsored, don't get paid, do it for the 45 minutes of fun with you guys. And so leave me a request, and maybe in your request put something like keyword like request. That way when I search them for the next food to review, I can find your request easily. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed. I will hang out with you guys next Thursday, and